the executive administrator, thank you, Selena, for the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement. And we're really privileged today to be hearing from Walt Dannenberg, who is going to talk to us about psychological safety and high reliability. And we all know how integral that is to having high quality care. But before I introduce Walt, I just want to make a couple of announcements. We have our publication competition is open, and it closes on November 1st. But if you go to our website, smci.stanford.edu, you'll see right on the front page how you can register your publication for our competition. And we're very much hoping to get many, many, many more entries into that. And I think that if you aren't a member of SMCI as yet, I'll put a link in the chat as to how you could join as an affiliate. And also you could just email me or even put a note in the chat as Walt is speaking, and I'm happy to sign you up myself. So let's get on to Walt. You all saw his bio that was in the lecture series announcement, but let me tell you what's not in there. So Walt and I worked together when he was the associate director at the VA Palo Alto, and Walt for his entire career has been someone who has studied evidence-based practice and who has been a champion of healthcare education and certification. So he is currently the chair of the Graduate Healthcare Administration Training Program for the Veterans Health Administration, and so a strong supporter of mentorship, of the study of healthcare administration and certification in healthcare administration. He's a fellow in the American College of Healthcare Executives, has been in that role or has had that certification for many, many years. He's also the co-chair of the VHA's steering committee for high reliability. And Walt has been someone who, ever since we all went on a lean journey at the Palo Alto VA many years ago in the late 2000s, embraced that, and not just a leader who talks about it, but a leader who acts on it. And he had a stint while he was still associate director at Palo Alto as acting director in Amarillo, Texas. And in the short 120 days that he was there, he brought a lean system to Amarillo, all on his own. So this is not just someone who, as I said, leads, but practices improvement on a daily basis. And I'm just so proud of what Walt has brought to Long Beach. He's now acting director in Hampton, helping out there. And then what he's been doing for several years now in spreading best practices and high reliability across VHA. So Walt, I will stop talking. Just couldn't be more pleased to hear from you today. We already have a record number of participants, so let me turn it over to you. Thanks so much.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for the warm introduction, and I'll go ahead and try to share my screen here and just do a quick systems check. Do you see the full screen mode?
It's great.
All right, very good. So yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the invite to Stanford's Medicine Center for Improvement lecture series. And the topic for today's presentation is creating an HRL culture of psychological safety, and really just wanting to kind of share my experience and my story with you, and just sharing with you kind of the agenda for today. So just so you understand the context of the work and the environment in which I carry about my normal daily activities, I wanted to give you a brief overview of VA, and then talk a little bit about me and my why I choose to work for VA, and then kind of some nuggets from my own personal leadership journey. And then as I developed my own professional development and started working to turn my focus outward and developing others, and some tools that you might be able to take away to help develop those around you as well, and talking about some of the foundational practices to help create psychological safety as part of a high reliable organization, and then also sharing with you a few engagement tools. And again, that last bullet there is CASE and CASWYW. You may be thinking, what the heck is that? CASE stands for copy and steal everything, or copy and steal what you want. That being said, this is not copyrighted information. Please feel free to share. There are a couple exercises that we will go through happy to replicate that and share, and you can share that further with your respective counterparts, or if you have speaking engagements, because some of them are very entertaining, but they also help to bring home a valid point with regards to creating a culture of psychological safety and high reliability within your own respective organizations. So let's talk a little bit about the VA. It is a large organization. It is headed by the Honorable Secretary Dennis McDonough. And there are many branches of VA, but there are three main components. One is the Veterans Health Administration, which I am currently employed under. And then there's also a large branch of the VA called the Veterans Benefits Administration, which handles like the GI Bill, education, also getting enrolled so that veterans can obtain healthcare benefits through VHA. And then last but not least, another large segment of VA is the National Cemetery Administration, which has locations across the United States and allows for people to be buried with dignity and respect as a member of a veteran and their armed service. Also helping with the Veterans Health Administration is Dr. Sharif El-Nahal. He is the Undersecretary for Health, and he has a lot of responsibility under his purview. So the VA is the largest integrated healthcare system in the United States, with over 1,200 healthcare facilities consisting of over 170 medical centers across the country. In addition to those medical centers, those are also complemented with a number of community-based outpatient clinics. And VA on the VHA side has over 400,000 employees. And again, we service and provide care to more than 9 million veterans across the United States. The VA is a large organization, as I had mentioned previously, and it is divided out into 18 different regions across the country. And if you look carefully, you'll notice that those numbers go all the way from 1 to 23. And over the course of the last few decades, some networks or regions have morphed and combined, and others have been developed. So there are currently 18 regions, even though those numbers go all the way to 23. And there are locations where VA provides care and services all the way going out to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, America Samoa, the Philippines, but primarily across the United States. With regards to my current role and responsibilities, my position of record is the Medical Center Director or CEO of the VA Long Beach Healthcare System. It is located in Los Angeles County and covers Orange County as well. We have about 68,000 veteran uniques that we provide services to on a regular basis. 5,900 of those are women veterans, and I will say over the course of the last several years, women veterans have been our largest and fastest growing segment over the past several years. And then we have a number of Iraq, Afghanistan veterans, over 6,500, and are continuing to have new enrollees with the passing of the PACT Act, which increased enrollment, eligibility, and services that VA can provide to our veterans. FY24, we passed the $1 billion threshold of our budget and have over 4,000 employees. And in addition to the medical center campus, which spans over 100 acres, we have 6 outpatient clinics, again, located in the Los Angeles and Orange counties in Southern California. With regards to the presentation today, I have been in the past, in my experience, have always been scratching the surface of process improvement, lean, and making things better. That was just kind of my natural style. But a few years ago, probably say 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago now, the VA has undergone a transformational journey for high reliability. And when we think about the complexities of providing healthcare, there are a number of significant impediments. You have look-alike, sound-alike drugs. You have people that aren't feeling their best. They're in the hospital. They're very sick, but they need to get up and they need to ambulate. There's high risk for falls. And what we have found is high reliable organizations provide safe, high quality, and effective care in, again, highly complex, risk-prone environments. And they are able to do so without causing significant harm or experiencing catastrophic events over significant periods of time. So there is something to having high reliability as a culture, but also having practices that support psychological safety and high reliability across your organization. So HRO, again, it promotes psychological safety by building trust, having open lines of communication and pathways to have improved communication to drive organizational improvement and success through your organization. So the next slide is a beautiful picture that was created. I think I saw it for the first time back in the days when I was working with Lisa Freeman and in Palo Alto. And this was kind of our burning platform for why we need to have high reliability practices. In order to have high reliability practices, we have to have psychological safety. But when you think about your environment, this picture came to fruition as part of a class exercise where somebody was asked, okay, recognizing where we are in our current state, let's draw your work environment. And so they drew this nice diagram of what I like to call mice people. And you have the mice people out on the top throwing a bomb, creating more chaos. You have people that are running the hamster wheel, the proverbial hamster wheel, just expending energy. And then at the end of the day, they're completely exhausted. They don't know, that they made much progress, and that becomes really, really frustrating. And then in the back corner, you have the mice people that are kind of just gossiping and stirring the pot. They're actively disengaged. And in the front right corner, you have those employees or those team members who may be asleep at the wheel and just completely oblivious to everything that's blowing up around them and happening. And then you have the superhero firefighters that are going to put out one fire after another. And then, as you know, when you put out one fire, obviously there's another bomb that goes off or another spark that happens somewhere else. And we find ourselves in that superhero mentality, going from fire to fire, putting them out one after the other. And that is incredibly exhausting, only to go to the next fire, recognizing as soon as I put that one out, there's 5, 10, 50 more fires to be put out. And that is incredibly exhausting. So how do we go about creating an organization that can get to a point of stability so that we can have a foundation for improvement? And then that foundation for improvement will serve as a basis of sustainability. So transforming that chaos that we just saw on the screen. And I don't know if you're familiar with Taiichi Ohno. He was the founder of the Toyota manufacturing processes and just that manufacturing system. But he had this saying that you have to have stability for that to be the foundation of improvement. Because if you're starting from over here on one day, and your processes and your organization is so unstable, you do the exact same thing, but you're starting from, somewhere else as far as that starting point, you're not going to be able to make consistent improvement that is sustainable. So you have to have some level of stability first, and then that level of stability can be that foundation that we can build upon and keep improving over time and make significant improvements and practicing the new standards, maintaining that standards, creating a new improvement, and then again, over the course of time, seeing some significant organizational improvement. And that, again, having that practice in place and that continual process where you're improving on another improvement and so on and so forth, that is the basis for sustainability. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Walt Dannenberg. I am the Medical Center Director for the VA in Long Beach, California. Have been in the role since February of 2017. So my goodness, that'll be what? And almost 8 years come February next year. Time flies. So 18 years total with the VA. And as Lisa had shared, I am a fellow of the American Healthcare Executives and have been for some time, I think going back to 2008. And I also serve as the co-chair for the HRO Steering Committee for VHA, and also the Healthcare Leadership Development Program, had co-chaired that for many years. And that is a program that looks to develop individuals who are wanting to become executives in the healthcare field, whether it be on the nursing executive side, the chief of staff, chief medical officer, or pure administrators, assistant, associate, deputy, and medical center directors. And really loved being part of that leadership development program. And I am now co-chairing the graduate healthcare, or chairing the graduate healthcare administration training program. So over the course of my career and putting the practices into place, I often talk about when I'm at VA Long Beach, our goal, and that is to become the best healthcare system in the country, wanting to become the best VA in the country. But it's going to take a little bit to get there. It's a journey. It's not a race. It's a marathon. It will take continuous practice over the course of many years. And see, people often ask, okay, why is this so important to you? And I will just tell you my own personal story and why I choose to work for VA, and why specifically VA Long Beach, and why I strive to be the best. So my story begins well before I was even born, going back to 1969, 1970 timeframe. And there was a huge conflict happening on the other side of the globe. And if you can remember through the history books, or if you actually remember in person, it was Vietnam. And I will share with you that my mom had just graduated Cal State Riverside, along with my dad, where they met. And my mom had finished her education, but my dad decided that he wanted to pursue a degree in physical therapy. And so he lo and behold, was able to get accepted into the program at Cal State Long Beach. So my parents moved from Riverside, California, to Long Beach, and my mom, needed to find a job to help make ends meet. And so she happened to look around and was fortunate enough to find employment. And believe it or not, it was actually at the same VA that I am medical center of now, at the VA in Long Beach, California. And she had started working there for several months and was approached by an administrator a few months into her role and was asked if she'd be interested in a promotion opportunity. And she said, yeah, sure, why not? Make more money, help put more food on the table, make things a little bit more financially easy in the early days of a marriage. And so she took on those additional roles and responsibilities. Now, what I will tell you is those roles and responsibilities forever changed the trajectory of her life and my life as well, even though I wasn't born. So kind of fast forwarding, so many years later, I was always known that my mom did not like the sound of helicopters and that she didn't even have to see a helicopter. She just had to hear it. And there's one vivid memory I have of my mom driving me to school on one day, elementary school. And there was the sound of this helicopter, and she just kind of became this different person and just kind of was in this trance and kind of pulled over and just tried to collect herself as best she could. And I called her out on it. I said, hey, Mom, what's the deal with helicopters? Why is it you always kind of turn into this different person? And she turned to me and she called me only a name that she calls me. She goes, Buzz, I want you to promise me one thing. Don't ever join the military. And I was like, okay. I was eight-ish at the time, didn't really think much about it. I was like, okay. And just said, okay, sure, why not, Mom? But what she told me years later was her experience at the VA and those additional roles and responsibilities that she took on. And what you may not know about the VA or the VA in Long Beach, California at the time during the Vietnam War is that we were a receiving site. And those additional roles and responsibilities involved going out to the helicopter pad. The helicopters would bring in individuals that had paid the ultimate sacrifice, and my mom's responsibilities were to offload the body bags. And if that wasn't traumatic enough, she had to actually unzip the body bags, check the toe tags to make sure that the names matched, and that we had multiple morgues at the VA at the time. And she had to ensure that the remains of our fallen had, depending on where their final resting place was going to be in the country, they go to one morgue or another. So you can imagine that was incredibly traumatizing for my mom to recognize names of individuals that she went to class with at school and people that she knew through the neighborhood, and just having those close connections. And again, a very traumatizing experience. But I will tell you, not all was bad from the VA. My mom actually fell in love with the service that the VA provided to our veterans, and so much so that she actually ended up going back to school to become a registered nurse. So my dad finished his degree in physical therapy, and just growing up in Texas, that was where my dad accepted his first job as a physical therapist. That's where I was born and raised. There was always talk about hospitals and healthcare, and my dad's favorite topic was, how much he hated his supervisor, and even more so the hospital administrator. So there was something in that I felt that I could make a change and make a difference, and that's what I chose for my own personal career, and to become a hospital administrator. Now, I will share with you that when I think about the freedoms and the liberties that I enjoy every single day, that those freedoms and liberties would not be possible if it weren't for the men and women who wore our country's uniform. And I will share with you that if you think about today's population and the number of people that wear the uniform, it's less than 1% of our country's population. So when I think again about the selfless sacrifice, the time and the effort that people put into defending our democracy and our freedom, and the individuals who deserve our absolute best in providing healthcare and services, I can't think of a better and more deserving group of individuals than those men and women. And I proudly serve in the VA and being able to provide that care for them. So fortunate would have it, I kept raising my hand for different opportunities, and started in the VA as a graduate healthcare administrative training program. And will tell you that in that first year, within the first few months, I had my very own first lesson in leadership. And we're not going to go through the whole exercise, but feel free to use this in however it fits you in future opportunities and work groups and sessions. But basically, there was a gentleman by the name of Stan Sinclair, and he was sharing with us the importance of relationship building. And he had us get out this blank sheet of paper, and he said, go ahead and put a quarter-size circle in the middle of the paper, and that circle represents you. And then he asked you if if you have people that work for you, if you're a supervisor, draw a line or draw circles that represent each of those people. If you have people that are colleagues of yours, equals, draw circles that represent them. And if you have supervisors or people that are higher in the organization that you work with some regularity, go ahead and draw a circle for all of those individuals. And the next step of that exercise was for him to then, or for us to each draw a line from that center circle, which again represented me, to all of those other circles. And then he asked us to rate each of those relationships, those lines from my circle in the middle to each of the other circles represented the strength of the relationship. And so by each one of those lines, drawing a 1 or 2, a 3, a 4, or 5, a 1 being that the relationship could not be, it was just absolutely strained, and a 5 being it was absolutely fantastic relationship, couldn't wait to talk to the person, share with them what we're doing, how we're going about our business. And then again, a 1 would be like nails on a chalkboard, just hearing the name of the person, having to work with them, just being very tenuous relationship. And so he asked us to rate all of those. And then at the end of that exercise, he basically had a very poignant take-home message. And that was, if you have some 1s or 2s on there, you definitely want to try to work to get those to a level 3. If you have 4s or 5s, you're setting yourself up for success down the road. And, I was looking at this from a upward mobility. The better my relationships were with other people, the more mobile, the better opportunities I would have for future career positions down the road. But the take-home message for me was that if we want to have psychological safety, if we want to have the ability to lean in on people that may see things differently than us, and those difficult relationships that were 1s or 2s, those are still value-added individuals who are coming to work every single day. And it's great to surround ourselves with like-minded people, but it's also important to make a concerted effort to reach out to individuals who may not see things the same way that we do, but to appreciate and respect their points of view, and to kind of try to at least see things through their lens that they're seeing them, and have some common understanding. You may not always agree, but at least you can appreciate and understand where people are coming from. And I just thought that was an incredible lesson. It has stuck with me throughout my entire career. So kind of going into my journey from graduate healthcare administrative training fellow, everything in the VA was new to me. And I decided, hey, I'm going to start working on projects. Maybe let me tap into this lean thing. And I took what was called the green belt training at the time, and started chartering a process improvement team with the operating room, and had some success. It was really impressive. So just by doing some spaghetti diagrams, time studies, and working with the team, we were able to increase the number of completed cases weekly up by 53%, which was just an absolutely incredible achievement. We were able to improve access for our veterans, the timeliness to care, getting procedures, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And what I didn't know then is those philosophies, those practices were all part of high reliability, improving communication, creating psychological safety, pulling feedback, so that we were putting our best step forward and including input from all of the team members to come up with the best solution possible. And again, this allowed me to take on positions of greater responsibility, and was able to then transition into a service chief role, or a department head, which had over 300 FTE. And recognizing that this kind of worked with the process improvement efforts in a small service or within the operating room, started having just daily huddles just out of necessity of trying to share information, keeping all the leaders within the service up to apprised of what was happening within the organization. And then also having all employee town halls with the 300 FTE that I had oversight of, and also sharing with them the different metrics, relaying and tying in what their work did and how that was important to the organization, and knowing that their efforts that they put forward were meaningful to the outcome of not only the organization, but also to the veterans we were serving. And that experience helped catapult me into my first executive role with as an assistant director at the Seattle VA. And just a little bit later, I was able to then accept the position where Lisa Freeman was then serving as the CEO and medical center director at the Palo Alto VA, where they were just starting to undergo an organization-wide lean transformation as part of high reliability. And there was an opportunity for me to learn about an entire new framework called the daily management system. And in order to do that, we did some field studies and some trips to go out and see what good looks like. And was able to visit Theta Care in Appleton, Wisconsin, which had a really nice tiered huddle escalation system and daily management system. And then what was really meaningful for me was going to see an organization called Autoleave. If you've heard of it, it's a airbag manufacturing plant in Ogden, Utah. And when I think about Autoleave, it was just an overwhelming experience. I actually ended up going back a second time and was able to absorb so much more and had a better appreciation and understanding after having done some implementation of process improvement and daily management systems in Palo Alto. So they had incredible visual management systems. Everything was, it's either the standard or it's not, it's green or it's red. They had cross-functional teams that were sitting next to each other. There wasn't a person in quality that was in, a QM office somewhere down the road. There was a finance person, on the other side of the physical plant. They were literally sitting next to each other, working through issues as they came up. They had standard work, one-piece flow, and standard escalation, so that there was a very efficient and synchronized process to how they manufactured airbags, and their defect rate was very, very low, and their satisfaction rate was incredibly high for their employees. So again, we talk about high reliability organizations and psychological safety. They had an organization that had standards. They had a system in place where everybody was a valued member. And if somebody saw something, they were able to readily speak up, share that. And then there was buy-in from the team to immediately try to address whatever issue that was so that they could be resolved and return to normal operations to, again, have a product with no defects and consistent and effective customer service and production as well. The other important lesson that I learned from Autoleave was the respect for people and respect for their work. And that's kind of two foundational principles that I have adopted and that I have continued on throughout my career in leadership and executive leadership. So there was the story that Autoleave was beyond 10 years into their journey or so, and were so proud of all the work that they were doing. They were connected with senseis over in Japan, and they had invited their senseis to come out and look at how they've redone the entire shop floor at the manufacturing plant. And they've done just a ton of work, and they were really happy to show it off. And so if you can imagine just this big, huge warehouse with a bunch of individual work cells and different pieces and just a lot of intricate orchestrated movements throughout the organization and throughout the facility, helping to create airbags. And the plant manager greeted the sensei from Japan, who was walking them through from one plant cell to another plant cell, kind of explaining the process improvements and the single piece flow that they've implemented. And they're passing by, and this is probably the 1990s, 1980s, and you may remember the dot matrix printers that go, and it just spits out one endless sheet of paper after another. And so the sensei sees this, and he stops and he's just kind of looking at it, and he notices this one worker from the manufacturing plant, and this paper is just spilling out over the printer onto the floor. And this worker comes by, rips off the paper that's collecting on the floor, and then he takes it off and kind of runs off into the rest of the plant. And the sensei looks at this, and he looks at the plant manager and goes, okay, well, that's interesting. So tell me, plant manager, is that a cat job or is that a dog job? And the plant manager is just like completely bewildered. He doesn't know what to think of it. And he goes, it's a dog job. And the sensei goes, okay, very good, and starts walking off. And the plant manager is still scratching his head going, what the heck is that? He's still kind of befuddled, and the sensei has since taken a few steps away, and he runs over to the plant, or to the sensei, and he goes, okay, sensei, I don't understand what's going on here. We've shown you all this improvement work that we're doing, and then we stop at this printer, and then you ask me if that job is a cat job or a dog job. I said dog job. You said, yep, that's great. Let's move on. And he's like, I don't get it. What gives? And the sensei says, well, I will tell you what, when I see this and I see someone bending over, having to go to the floor to pick up and carry on their normal day-to-day routines, it's just part of the daily activities. I asked you if that was a cat job or a dog job, because that is not a human job. And so even though we've done all this work as a plant to create less defects, higher productivity, higher quality, if we are not respecting the people and respecting the work of the people who are putting in their effort every day to create a stellar product and a stellar service, then we are not doing ourselves justice. And I had always taken that lesson to, and we can be great at what we do, but if we don't take care of our people and make their work and set them up for success and support them to the best of our abilities, we are failing ourselves as an organization. And so that was an incredible lesson that I learned from the auto leave and have always kind of kept that with me as well. And so we were able to implement the daily management system at the VA Palo Alto healthcare system. And in order to do that, we kind of had to pave the way as an organization and focus on a meeting-free zone. And that is the very first part of the day. So I think when we first started, it was 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this removed all the committee meetings, other meetings that the organization is responsible for. And I think we got a little bit of a feedback. And then the tiered huddles were, basically we have our frontline employees meeting with their supervisor at the beginning of the day and engineering it so that that frontline supervisor could then go to their supervisor huddle and then so on and so forth. And that would replicate itself until we had basically an enterprise-wide huddle with executive leadership present, along with other members of leaders that are important throughout the organization to hear about what is impacting our ability to work to our standards for that organization for that day, and what issues or barriers need to be resolved so that we can return and support our employees who are working to provide care and service to our patients and to our veterans. And so along with that was a formalized escalation pathway. And those daily management huddles had a visual management board system so that if something was brought up, that issue or that barrier was placed on the board. There was some level of accountability of being able to say, okay, here's what the issue is. Here's when it was escalated, or here's when it was identified. And then who is the person that can assist with that and who has action? And then when are we going to follow up on it? So everything is very visual, it's transparent. And people and individuals in these work groups really appreciated knowing not only are we just capturing things, but things are happening to improve the work that we're doing every single day. And so what I noticed about the benefit of the daily management system that we implemented in Palo Alto was that it effectively empowered staff to voice their ideas related to safety and improvement opportunities. When I think about the old way of doing things, we would have a few key strategic initiatives that we would all work on collectively as an organization. And some, people in nutrition and food may not be tied directly to some of the clinical components, and it really didn't connect for everyone in the organization. But what I found with DMS is when you have a work group specific management system, it allows them to have meaningful input into the meaningful work that they are doing in that respective group. And it really is empowering and energizing. It increases staff engagement and also in their ability to focus on safe practices, both psychological safety, patient safety, physical safety, and then also it truly improved the morale and the professional satisfaction of staff as well. And as Lisa had mentioned, I was given the opportunity to serve as the interim medical center director or CEO for the Amarillo VA. And as I was progressing in my career in VA, I was getting less and less certain in wanting to become a CEO or medical center director. But Lisa had a really nice heart-to-heart with me. She said, she convinced me to go by saying, if you take on this leadership opportunity in the acting director in Amarillo, it's great experience and it's only for a limited time. So if you don't like it, but if you do like it, then you'll know that you're ready to move on to the next step and become a medical center director down the road. So I had spent about 4 months in Amarillo, and I will tell you the first week I was there, it was almost like stepping back in time. So if you can imagine yourself in this large executive conference room with the executive leaders and some of the department heads around the table, and they had this very formalized morning style report, which is basically an hour-long meeting. And we'd go from one leader to the next, and they would bring up kind of their normal report that they would run through. And then they would mention like 2 or 3 items that were a significant issue, like the CT scan is down, and they go to the next person, and it would just be like one problem after the other. And then they just kind of kick it to the next person to report. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? These are significant issues. What are we doing about it? And people would just look at me like, what do you mean? What are we doing about it? It's like, yeah, that's an issue. That's that is not to standard. What are we going to do? And so they were very receptive. That it wasn't an organization that was in chaos or crisis, but they were just kind of running around and just kind of going through the motions. And having a system that helped elevate issues and also tracked issues through to resolution was something that was really needed with that healthcare organization. And Worked with the executive leadership team. They were very supportive and wanted to try having the daily management system implemented, and was able to have that tiered system put into place, and had it as a pretty well-oiled machine by the time I stepped away. And this is, gosh, maybe 10 years ago now. And they actually still use that same tiered huddle system that was there. But what was really meaningful for me, and was a pivotal moment in my own career development, was the had two nurses the last day I was there walk up to me. They were having a little bit of a reception, and these were two individuals that I had never yet met, but they walked up to me and they wished me well, and they just said they wanted to come and say thank you to me specifically, not only for implementing the tiered huddle system, the daily management system, because not only were they able to say something and that something was put up on the board, but actually those things got taken care of and resolved, and they were able to then improve their own work, and they were just extremely thankful for that. And so for me, it was great in the sense of, hey, I learned something, I was able to implement and change an organization and positively impact people that I did not have direct contact with. And that for me kind of sealed the deal. And thank you, Lisa, for having that pep talk with me. It forever changed my career and gave me the assuredness that I needed to step into the next role as a medical center director, and was fortunate enough to eventually get to the Long Beach VA, where my mom had first worked as a medical center director. So during that time, VA was undergoing their own transformation and working on implementing high reliability as a nationwide initiative. And looking at the three pillars of high reliability, there's obviously, you have to have leadership buy-in and commitments. There's also that intense focus on a culture of safety. And again, when we talk about safety, we're talking about psychological safety, physical safety, patient safety. And tying into that and supporting those other two pillars of HRO is having a framework for continuous process improvement. Now, when we talk about the foundational practices of HRO, you have the daily huddles or the safety huddles. You have leader rounding to support the work that's happening. Then you have the visual management systems to ensure that things that are happening, improvement projects, are visual. I like to have a rule of 5 feet, 5 seconds, so that you can really understand quickly, are we doing well, or are there opportunities or support that's needed to continue on that journey of improvement? And then also having an open forum, safety forums, where people can talk about issues or barriers to safety, have root cause analysis presentations, or what we have in the VA is called a joint reporting, patient safety reporting system, and talking about close calls or near misses, where we have an opportunity to strengthen our organization to provide safer care for our patients and for our veterans. So the goal of the foundational HRO practices is to make sure that people feel safe to speak up, know that their voices and their influence and their actions, and then also believing that their colleagues care about them, and really having a team approach where everyone feels like they're contributing consistently and positively to improving the overall organization. Now, I will share with you that I had a few lessons learned. There's obviously a plan for implementing high reliability practices and promoting psychological safety. But we had in Long Beach kind of run into this proverbial brick wall where the executive leadership team was doing a lot of coaching, and it kind of just stopped with that next level down. It wasn't making it to the other mid-level managers or to the frontline supervisors. And we're kind of just scratching our heads like, what is going on? And why is that knowledge not transferring throughout the rest of the supervisory ranks? And we had an epiphany that, we were just coaching others. But if we were to really retool and refine our approach, we found out that it was much more impactful to teach others, not to just coach them, but to also coach them to coach. And so this kind of comes into the philosophy of making sure that you're building your team, but making sure that you have leaders that are able to then turn around and build others around them. So we implemented the coaching kata questions, which has been incredibly helpful and transformational for us at VA Long Beach. There's kind of the 5 questions. You may already be familiar with it, but what really happens with the VA and leaders is you have individuals that are very anxious and willing to, energetic and wanting to help, and they go around from one employee to the next saying, hey, I'm the new supervisor, what can I do to help? And then at the end of the day, they have a list of 10, 20 things that they are now responsible for. And oh, by the way, if they don't get it done, they are now the rate limiting step. So coaching kata is great for performance improvement, just going out and seeing how things are going. but it keeps the discussion and the problem solving with the individual that you're engaging with as a leader. So, what is the target condition? What's the target state? What are we actually trying to achieve? And then where is our current state? What are we actually at today? And then kind of asking questions about the obstacles and what are the next steps. And then what's really important about coaching kata is then, as the leader, committing to them, to following up with them on when they can take that best next step after you've coached them through, and figuring out what their best next step might be. So coaching kata has been incredibly useful for us in not only creating psychological safety and breaking down the barriers between leaders and frontline employees, but to really promote the individual thought process and problem solving for all members of the organization at the VA Long Beach healthcare system. And to complement the coaching component, there are a million things. There's process improvement, there's value streams, there's rapid improvement events, and there's all these different things and different techniques that you can use to create a highly reliable organization and promote psychological safety. But I wanted to start somewhere and focus on basically three buckets of organizational transformation. And those three buckets were basically making sure that we had a standardized daily management system from the front line supervisor level all the way up to executive leadership, that we had leader standard work so that leaders were ensuring that they were doing what was important about their specific work and their roles and their responsibility in that position. That position in the organization exists for a reason, and ensuring that they were committing time and space to be able to carry out those functions as a leader. And then that third bucket was Gemba and coaching. And then we kind of developed this matrix that had different levels of mastery. So level one was basically a novice. You're just kind of learning and understanding the principles and the concepts. Level two being a beginner that you could accomplish and be proficient with the help of a coach. And then level three was you're able to do it on your own without the assistance of a coach. And then level four was kind of like that master level where you're able to then coach someone else to a level three. And utilizing that focus and ensuring that our leaders from, again, frontline supervisors all the way up to executive leadership had kind of the ability to master that and get to at least a level three, if not a level four. And being able to also visually manage that as a healthcare system so that instead of always having to go to an executive, someone could look at this training matrices and say, hey, someone's at a level three or someone's at a level higher, I could reach out to that person and learn from them. And so we created this training matrices to really improve the communication, but also to easily see where we were as leaders across the organization to develop those three buckets of lean leader foundations. We also talked a little bit about creating psychological safety and having safety forums where people could talk about things that didn't quite go right and what we could do as an organization to, again, strengthen our processes and set up our employees and clinicians for success in providing high quality care and service to our to our veterans and to our patients. So in safety forums, we typically have an executive leader leading the discussion. We'll honor an HRO theme of the month, and this month's theme of the month is duty to speak up. And then we'd also sprinkle in some RCA's root cause analysis or healthcare failure mode effect analysis and really get to the root of things that may be an opportunity that are a risk to the organization and what are the steps and countermeasures we are implementing to improve our organizational outcomes. Then we talked a little bit about the joint patient safety, where those close calls, any employee, administrative or clinical, can enter the JPSR into this system anonymously, or they can put their name on it. But that goes to our patient safety office on a day-to-day basis and looking for opportunities that we can improve and strengthen and maybe eliminate some risk within our organization. And those JPSRs, once they're reviewed, we actually have what we call a Great Catch Award. So we will go out, the members of the executive leadership team will sign a certificate by the medical center director and executive leader. And then we will do a presentation thanking the employee, not only for raising an issue. We have this saying, if you see something, say something, and better yet, do something. And those employees who saw something, did something, and really took action to prevent a possible negative outcome from happening, we honor at our patient safety forums, but we also go out to the work unit and honor them as well in front of their colleagues. And we also like to end our safety forums with a fun engagement zone and just to solicit input and to have some fun while we're at it. So a little bit about supporting psychological safety through leader rounding. Again, you can't lead an organization of high reliability if you're always in your office and you're never out and about. So Things to focus on as a leader when you're going out into the organization is focus on the foundational practices of high reliability. Always focus on patient and staff safety. And then, part of being a high reliability organization is you're always having continuous process improvement projects. So being able to stop by a visual management board and talk to some of the team members that are actively working on that work is a great thing to focus on when you're leader rounding. You want to probably spend about 10 to 20 minutes per round. And sometimes you can do it with an interdisciplinary team or just the frontline staff that are going about carrying on their work. So a couple of benefits of leader rounding. Again, you have improved visibility of your leaders. There's an increased understanding because you can hear about an issue or a challenge all you want, but going and seeing, I have never gone to a Gemba and not learned something. So going to Gemba leader rounding is an incredibly valuable practice. It also fosters shared decision making. It increases staff satisfaction, employee morale, and it contributes significantly to breaking down the power barriers between executive leaders, supervisors, and frontline staff. And again, it gives team members voice and agency to be able to own and have accountability for the work, but also support in the work that they do. Now, I will tell you, when we're talking about creating psychological safety, the idea is to solicit or elicit feedback and input from all team members so that we can come out with the best possible outcome as an organization. Now, I don't know if you know who the individual is on the screen. I know a lot of people are probably thinking to themselves, oh, that's Elvis Presley. No, the other guy. That other guy is Mr. Sam Phillips. And when we talk about Sam Phillips, if you're in the music industry or not, you may know him as one of the most successful record producers of all time. And somebody once asked him, okay, Sam, what is your secret sauce to success? And I would argue that his answer is the same secret sauce to successful HRO implementation into psychological safety. So he basically said, whenever I listen to a record and I finish listening to that record, if I want to play it again, then I produce it. If I don't want to play it again, then I don't. So making sure that people are having fun, that there's a level of engagement to supporting psychological safety and high reliability, because if people aren't having fun, they're not going to want to do it again. So if we make continuous process improvement initiatives stressful and unfun, people aren't going to want to do it again. But if we create, removing the power barriers, soliciting and improving communication from supervisors amongst team members, and support and encourage and recognize people for their efforts and celebrate successes, people will want to play that record again, and they'll want to do more process improvement, and they'll want to continue the high reliability foundational practices. So having fun at work can and should be a part of psychological safety and high reliability practices at your organization. Now, I said at the very beginning, there were a couple exercises. We're not going to actually do this exercise, but we will do the next one. So I know you're probably all virtually tuning in, but if you are ever in a group setting where there are probably 10 or more people in a group, you can do the True North exercise is what I like to call it. And so basically you have people stand up if they're able in the room, and you lead them through this exercise, and you tell them what you're going to do before you do it. So you say, okay, you're going to have to trust me a little bit. You get everybody to stand up. And then you say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to close our eyes. And again, trust me, make sure you have enough room. I don't want you to accidentally touch or hit somebody next to you, because we're going to be pointing in a certain direction. But I'm going to ask you to stand up, close your eyes. And then I want to make sure you're not cheating. So put your hand over your eyes, and then we're going to point north on the count of 3. Okay, you guys got it? Okay, great. And then you say, okay, go ahead, close your eyes, put your hands over your eyes so you don't cheat, and then go ahead and point north on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, point, right? And then the next part of this phrase is that, make sure that everyone's pointing. If they're pointing straight up in the air, that doesn't count. Make sure that everyone's pointing in a direction that's horizontal to the ground, and then tell them, okay, keep pointing, but take your hands down and look around. And inevitably, there are people that are just pointing all over the place, right? And so you congratulate them for being successful in the exercise, have them take a seat, and then we talk about what the heck just happened, right? So everybody was successful and being able to stand up if they were able. They all pointed in what they thought was north. But at the end of the day, people have different interpretations, or maybe they don't even know. And I can tell you, I've been part of this, and I'm sure everybody else and all of you have, is you've been part of a work group that says, okay, we're going to go, accomplish 20 of these widgets by the, end of 2 weeks. And all right, ready, set, go. And then everybody goes about, they try to do their best job possible. 2 weeks go by. The work group leader, the supervisor brings us back together, and there's just chaos and confusion, and we didn't make as much progress as we thought we were going to. And the reason behind this exercise is we can be very clear in our direction and expectations, but if we don't give each other the competencies and the ability and the knowledge to be successful as an organization, then we are doing our employees and our team members a disservice by not effectively supporting them and setting them up for success. So again, when we talk about high reliability organizations, it's one thing to say, yay, we're going to be the best healthcare system in the country. It's another thing to say, we're going to be the best healthcare system in the country, and here's our plan to do it. Here's the knowledge, here's the skills, here's the capabilities, here are the lean leader foundations, here's how you go about your work, and here's how you lead an organization and have those competencies, that knowledge, and those capabilities embedded into the fabric of the organization. And that is, again, talking about secret sauce, having fun while you're doing it makes a world of difference. So I will tell you, psychological safety and, HR does have a superpower. And I don't know if we can do this, but this is going to require some engagement on your part. So I am going to stop sharing the screen here. And I think you see on the screen was a goat. But okay, I am going to give each of you 30 seconds. And I'm going to ask, this is a pen and paper. And no cheating. I know if you have ChatGTP or some other AI device, this is using pure brain cell power. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to name as many animals as you can that start with the letter G. On your mark, get set, go. So name as many animals in 30 seconds that start with the letter G. All right, we got 20 more seconds. All right, you guys are doing great. 10 more seconds. All right, stop. Okay. Now we will have to use the chat feature here. But how many people, let's see, was there anyone that had more than 5? If so, type in yes. Or turn on your camera. Let's see, I think everyone already has their camera on. Anyone have more than 5? Yes.
Got a bunch of yeses.
Okay, all right. Let's see, anybody get more than 7? All right, let's see, anybody get more than 8? So I see Christine has 7. Anybody beat 7? I'm not seeing anybody topping out 7. So Christine, if you wouldn't mind, if you're able to unmute and share what 7 you have.
Hi, I'm Christine from Valley Medical Center in Renton, Washington. And the 7, I use things a little bit loose. So
Okay.
Ghost, Grace, who is my mom, and Animal. My dad, Gary.
Okay,
Grace
this is a
spelled a
first.
different way.
Yeah.
Goose, Jean, who was an uncle of mine, and Giraffe.
Okay, all right, that's very creative. I have never had anyone use a human name before, so kudos to you. All right, if you didn't name Goat, Graves, Gary, Jean, or Giraffe, what other ones? And just come off of mute and feel free to share what animals you came up with that started with the letter G.
Gila monster.
Gia monster. All right, yes. Anybody else?
Gazelle.
Gazelle. All right, yes. Oh, I see a gorilla. Okay. Gibbon. All right. Gecko. Oh, you guys are good. Golden Retriever. Great Dane. Hold on. Oh my goodness. 12, 13. All right. Gecko. Gnat. Oh, that's great. Then we have, did we do gazelle already? Giraffe, gorilla, great white shark. That's a new one. Gopher, yes. Goldfish. Oh my gosh, you guys are so good. Grasshopper. Gadfly. Haven't heard of that one, but we'll take it. Guinea pig. Oh my goodness, we're up to 20. Gerbil, 21. Giant condor. Love that one. 22. Griffin, grizzly bear. Okay, so you guys are just totally rocking out the G animals. And I gotta say, so we started off by thinking about this problem on our own, and we came up with 5 to 7, depending on if you use human names or not, which is great. But you guys just totally blasted through that with more than 20 by collectively using each other's skill set and knowledge. And why I think about this being an HRO superpower, and again, feel free to use this exercise in your own respective organizations. But when we take down that psychological barrier and really solicit, make people feel involved and empowered and solicit their input and feedback, everyone has different knowledge, skills, and ability. And by collectively harnessing that ability and that input, we can come up with some really incredible solutions. So just be mindful that when we have HRO, psychological safety is such an important factor to it, and being able to harness the power of collective working all rowing together in the same direction, you can come up with some incredible results. And that's just an exercise to really bring that home in a matter of a few seconds. So I know I'm running a little bit long on time, but I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure being able to present to you today. And if we have time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Walt. I think we probably are going to call it here because people probably have 1 o'clock meetings. But I'm going to invite people to come off mute so you can join me in applauding this. And I think, Walt, we're just going to have you back so that we can delve into this even deeper. And also just huge kudos and thanks to Walt, who has a very, very busy schedule. He's actually on the East Coast, so he's participating with us very late in his already very long day. But thanks so much, Walt. It was awesome. And just a reminder to everybody on the call that we will post the recording of this call, and I'm sure Walt will share his slides. And thanks so much, Walt, for all the tools and tips and copying and stealing everything invitation. So we definitely will do that. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.